Let's kill the son of a bitch.
Season 2 of Stranger Things flew by, so now it is time to talk about the finale that put a nice bow on things. So let's break it down right here on what happened. Welcome back, y'all. I'm super bummed because now my binge of Stranger Things has come to an end. I have a love-hate relationship with shows that are bingeable because I end up watching them way too fast and then I have to wait even longer for the next season, whereas if it was an episode a week, it wouldn't seem as long as a hiatus. But you know what? It was well worth the wait. While I still think episode 8 is my favorite from the season, chapter 9, The Gate, serves as a great finale, and of course in the last 3 seconds we set up for season 3. Now I'll talk more in a different video about actual unanswered questions, theories for season 3, and stuff like that, but this video right here will specifically just be a recap of what happened with a few of my thoughts sprinkled in. So let's get it started. It's pretty sweet how the episode is bookended by Mike and Eleven and their love for each other. I'm sure it made all the shippers of those two very, very happy. At the beginning of the episode, they have a notebook-esque moment where Mike says he never gave up on her and called her every night, to which Eleven says she heard, leading Hopper to have to fess up that Eleven's been around the entire time, which makes Mike pissed, and Mike tries to fight Hopper. Dustin and Lucas then go and greet Eleven, and when Max tries to introduce herself, she gets the cold shoulder because the only image that Eleven has of Max is when she was giggling and skateboarding around Mike. Now I think once Eleven realizes that it's Max and Lucas that are meant for each other, these two will end up being some good badass friends. Eleven then goes to see Will and then looks at the closed gate message, and Joyce asks her if she thinks she could close the gate since she was able to open it before, and Eleven says yes, but of course to get there you have to brave all the demodogs at the lab. Well, Eleven is ready to take on that beast of a challenge, but Mike points out that the Mind Flayer is the brain, and if they kill it then the body dies too, meaning Will would also die. Joyce then has a realization. They've been trying to keep Will comfortable by keeping him cold and stuff like that, and all that's actually doing is giving the Mind Flayer what it wants, so if they stop doing that, maybe it will leave Will, so they start to devise a plan. Jonathan, Nancy, and Joyce take Will out to Hopper's cabin in the woods because it's a place Will doesn't know. They strap him down, build a fire, and turn on a bunch of space heaters in order to try to burn the Mind Flayer out of Will. Meanwhile, Eleven and Hopper drive off to Hawkins' lab where the two have a real heart-to-heart in the truck. They come to terms with each other. They realize that they've both been stupid, and Eleven learns about Sarah. Back at the Byers' house, Steve is left babysitting the bench team as he's promised Nancy he'd keep the kids safe. They clean up the house, which includes Dustin putting the dead demodog in the fridge trying to preserve it. Mike wants to help everyone, but Steve says there's nothing they can do. Well, think again, Steve. Mike comes up with a plan for getting to the place on the map where all the tunnels merge, or the hub, and he wants to set it on fire. That way the Mind Flayer will send his demodogs to them and away from the lab, so Eleven can get in and close the gate. Of course, Steve's telling them it's not happening because it's really dangerous, but then they're interrupted by freaking Billy. Billy went over to Mike's house and creepily flirted with his mom and found out that Max is probably at the Byers' house, so here he is. Now Steve, who I said in the last recap has truly become one of my favorite characters this season, tries to send Billy off by saying Max isn't there, but the kids of course blow their cover, and Billy makes his way into the house and starts to rough up Lucas when Steve comes to the rescue. The two get in a brawl, and sadly Billy gets the best of Steve, landing some huge head punches that look brutal. Max keeps Billy from killing Steve by using one of Will's syringes to drug him, and then she puts the fear of Max in him.
Here on out, you leave me and my friends alone. Do you understand?
Screw you.
The kids then load up a KO'd Steve and steal Billy's car to drive to Merrill's farm where they know the hole for the upside down tunnels is. Steve is awoken by this time and just finally, after a lot of panicking, accepts that he's just gonna have to go along with this plan. And since he made a vow to keep the kids safe, he's gonna take the lead, going first through the maze of tunnels to the hub. At the lab, Hopper and Eleven are trying to make their way down to the gate of the upside down, and they end up finding Dr. Owens still alive in the stairwell because somehow he managed to fend off all the demodogs or survive them with only just a leg wound. Hopper makes Owens a tourniquet from his belt, gives him a gun, and strikes a deal saying that maybe once this is all done, he can help Eleven lead a normal life instead of being a test subject. Eleven and Hopper then make their way down to the lab where the entrance of the gate is, but there's still some demodogs down there. Back at Hopper's cabin, Will is now awake and he's burning up, but nothing seems to be happening. Jonathan thinks they're killing him and wants to turn off the heaters, but You know what? Joyce just ends up turning them up because she sees visions of Bob and she needs justice for Bob. Will then starts to choke Joyce and Nancy grabs a hot poker and stabs Will, causing him to release her. Then the Mind Flayer begins to leave Will's body and flies out of the cabin. The group down in the tunnels find the hub and set it on fire, and as they're running back for the entrance, they get delayed because Mike trips and gets grabbed by a vine. They break him free, but when they do, they see a demodog standing there. Now they think they're about to be goners when Dustin notices that it's Dart because it has that yellow mark on the butt. He's able to distract Dart with some 3 Musketeer bars, and Dart lets them go. And it's kind of heartbreaking when Dustin says bye to Dart, because I like to think that Dart was the exception to the demodog rule, that he was actually kind of nice. He may have eaten Muse, but you know what? He reminds me of Gizmo from Gremlins. Steve then gives the kids a boost out of the tunnels, but they hear demodogs, and for a moment we think he and Dustin are goners, but the demodogs ignore them and run right past in order to get back to the lab because 11 is now working her magic on the gate. Her and Hopper made it down to the gate, and while at first it didn't seem like 11's powers were strong enough, she remembers what 8 told her, and she begins to remember all the memories that make her angry, and she starts to levitate, eventually closing the gate. The episode then jumps 1 month later to what feels like a middle school John Hughes movie. The military has come and closed Hawkins' lab, labeling it a restricted area, as we learn that Nancy and Jonathan's tapes did get released, and we get a bit of justice for Barb, at least for her parents, as we see them at Barb's funeral, and the lie about the exposure to chemicals worked. Hopper goes to meet with Dr. Owens, who has somehow survived and not been arrested. He seems to make good on his deal with Hopper and has forged a birth certificate for 11, naming Terry Ives the mom, and I'm assuming him the father, since it officially says that 11's name is now Jane Hopper. Dr. Owens also says that 11 should maybe lay low for another year while things cool off, which makes me wonder if this just still gives Owens some kind of power here, or is he actually trying to keep 11 safe? Hopper does negotiate for 11 to be let out for one night, and it looks like Hopper's kind of come around and changed how he's parenting 11 this time. So why does 11 need a night out? Well, she needs it for the Hawkins Middle School snowball. As the kids get ready for the dance, there's a nice shout out to 2 fallen soldiers this season. Will has drawn a picture of Bob Newby, superhero, that proudly hangs on the fridge, and Dustin's mom has gotten a new kitten and named it Twos in honor of Muse. We also get to see the impact that Steve has had on Dustin, and as Dustin gets ready for the dance, he uses some Farrah Fawcett hairspray. And Steve actually is the one who picks him up to drive him to the dance and gives him a little pep talk. Yep, I love this brotherly bond going on here. I really do kind of want that spinoff, or at least maybe a short series. Before Steve drives off, he sees Nancy through the window, and it's kind of heartbreaking because Steve's obviously still not over her, but he's trying to make the best of it and be a good guy. Kids are all in the dance, and well, actually every character in the show pairs off except Steve and Dustin, but you know what? It's okay, because honestly, they're still my favorite duo. Joyce and Hopper hang out together outside of the dance. Lucas and Max dance together and kiss. Will gets asked by a girl who calls him Zombie Boy to dance, and Mike dances with 11, and of course Jonathan and Nancy are together. Now Mike and 11, they finally get that kiss that Hopper cop blocked in the beginning of the episode, and this kiss almost didn't happen. I just watched an interview with Millie Bobby Brown where she said the kiss wasn't written into the script, but she put it in because she knew the shippers would be mad if they didn't get that kiss. So good on you, Millie. Now with all those characters paired up, poor Dustin, he tries to use Steve's advice to, ask a girl to dance, but keeps getting rejected and ends up going to cry on the bleachers. That's when Nancy steps in to save the day and dances with him, and of course all the other girls that rejected him are kind of giving her looks because now Dustin's the man dancing with a pretty older girl. Nancy comforts Dustin by saying he's actually her favorite of Mike's friends and that he should give the girls a few years, that they'll soon see how great he really is. So it seems like everyone is getting their happy ending, right? It all wrapped up nicely with a bow. Well, that is until the last few seconds of the episode. As we zoom out of the gym, the camera starts to flip, and as you guessed it, all of a sudden it's turned upside down, and we see the Mind Flayer looming over the gym. I think overall this was a really good finale and a really good season. Stranger Things is a show that I actually didn't feel suffer the sophomore slump that many other shows do. If anything, it actually got better. As well as the performances, those were out of this world for this season. All of them were great, but I really have to hand it to Joe, David, Noah, and Millie. For me, they had the strongest performances this season, especially with Noah, who must have been so exhausted after every take with everything that Will went through and that intensity. For Joe, he really gave heart to Steve this season, and sometimes those reformed bad boy characters just aren't believable, but you know what? I believe in Steve. I love this guy. I didn't like him first season, love him this season. I really want a spin-off of Steve the babysitter, or just Steve and Dustin. All those scenes with him and the kids just gave me major adventures and babysitting vibes, and I want more of it. I also love the relationship that David and Millie pulled off with Hopper and Eleven and that whole dynamic. Two characters that sadly fell flat this season, and I still don't see their purpose, were Billy and Max. Sure, at the end they had a few key moments in the plot, but you know what? The plot, I think, really could have survived without them. It seems like Max is now part of the group, though, so maybe in season 3 she'll finally be able to develop more, because she definitely has the makings of a cool character. As for Billy, maybe he could become the villain in season 3, but also we saw a change of heart when he comes to Max, so we'll see. When it comes to 8, I honestly thought she'd be a bigger part of the show, but all she really did was show 11 how to use her anger to make her power stronger, which I guess actually was essential to closing the gate, but we didn't really have to devote a whole episode to it. As always, before I wrap up this last Stranger Things recap, let's take a moment to look back at some of the best moments and lines from this episode.
You have teeth.
Oh, you like these pearls?
The place is crawling with those dogs.
Demodogs.
I'm sorry, what?
I said, demodogs. Like Demogorgon and dogs. Like, you put them together, it sounds pretty badass.
How is this important right now?
It's not, I'm sorry.
I may be a pretty shitty boyfriend, but turns out I'm actually a pretty damn good babysitter.
I've been stupid too.
I guess we broke a rule.
Is this really necessary?
Yes, it is, okay? This is a groundbreaking scientific discovery. We can't just bury it like some common mammal, okay? It's not a dog.
All right. You're explaining this to Mrs. Byers, all right?
Nancy? I love this song. You?
Yeah, I love it. But not as much as I love you, Lukey.
Get out of my room!
My final Stranger Things episode recap has come to an end. Now, if you want to talk about unanswered questions, theories for season 3, diving a little deeper into what's going on, you can click right over here for that video. And now we must just sit and wait patiently for season 3. So until then, hopefully you check out some of my other videos, but if not, I'll see you when Stranger Things season 3 comes out.